I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there any public comment from the board this evening?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank a group of citizens in town. Actually, we played a role. We helped. Dave McDonald and Mike Nault organized a building of a bocce court down at the Eagle House. They got donations, et cetera, of materials or reduced cost of materials, donated the rest, organized a group of people to come help build it. Paul Anderson actually designed it in great detail. In fact, Paul had surgery Friday and he was still out Saturday just to check on the work to make sure it was going well. And Mike Nault took over supervisor and kept us all on track. So I just wanted to recognize again Dave McDonald, Mike Nault, Joe Progen, Jamie Toll, Tom Alonzo, Carl Luck, Fred Malcolm, Peter Charpentier, Tommy Nowd, and Pete Lincoln, who all spent the day Saturday putting the structure together. The DPW is working with the Eagle House to do some more site work, and we'll finalize it, but it's going to be a nice facility for the folks to use down there, and hopefully we'll get some leagues going, and we'll get the seniors outdoors and having some fun. So just want to thank everyone that was involved.
I agree. It was a fun project to work on too, so for a good purpose. I also want to announce very belatedly, because I forgot it at our last meeting, that I wanted to congratulate all the people who organized and ran in Miles for Miles. Again, one of those annual traditions in Lunenburg. Definitely a worthy cause, and the attendance was record attendance for that day. It was a beautiful day too, so I want to thank everybody for continuing their support there, and all the organizers and everybody who puts in a lot of time and effort to make sure everything runs smoothly for the runners, for the kids on the walk, for the bike ride. Thanks to you to the chief for running the bike ride. So congratulations to them, and I apologize for the late announcement of that. Any public comment from the public? Seeing none.
Oh.
Nope.
Hi.
Hi.
Mike Luth, Lieutenant with Lunenburg Police Department. I don't believe we're on the regular agenda. I'm here.
You are.
You are on the
Oh, yeah,
regular
I
agenda.
apologize. I thought.
But okay, but now you're my next,
Okay,
so don't
we'll
worry.
go first. Okay.
Oh, let's do the boot drive. I'm sorry. You're right. The boot drive for the Salvation Army. Mr. McDonald, the lieutenant warmed it up for you. There you go.
He did great. That was good. Good evening. My name is Dave McDonald. I live in Lunenburg. And tonight I come to above the board to ask for permission for our Salvation Army boot drive, as we've done for a while in the town of Lunenburg. We're planning the drive on 12/14. I know it's kind of in the distance, but we're planning it now. We would like to do it from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. We'd like to do it at the center of town and over at CVS. Just to give you a little bit of history of what we do for the Salvation Army, all monies collected stays here, 100%. It stays in the Fitchburg, Leominster, Lunenburg area. I've been associated with the Salvation Army now for over 30 years. Some of the monies go to a program called Bridging the Gap. It goes to our summer programs for the kids. It also does emergency shelters for Lunenburg, our canteen for Fitchburg and for Lunenburg. We also do Thanksgiving baskets. This year we have over 400 requests for baskets. We have our Christmas castle, our angels for toys. Next time you're in a store during the holiday season, please pick up a toy and also pick up an angel. That child will get that toy. We also do our kettle drives, which I challenge you guys, if you like, to come ring the bell. The mayors of Fitchburg and Leominster will do it. Whoever wins the Thanksgiving Day game, they have to wear the shirts when they do the bell ringing at the mall. We also do Wheels on Meals for Christmas. Last year we did over 350 meals for the shut-ins on Christmas morning. We also like to thank the Holly House because they cook all our turkeys for us on Christmas Eve. So next time you're in there, tell Gail, thank you very much. If you'd like to help with bell ringing, please call our offices at 978-342-3300. Your help would be most appreciated. We also talked with the chiefs, both chiefs. In fact, I talked to Chief Moreno today, We got our permission, and we'll be wearing, again, our reflective vests, as you can see here. We'd also asked the Lunenburg Fire Department this year if they could help us as well. So again, if you guys would like, feel free and come on down and ring a bell. I hope I answered the questions there.
I don't have anything.
Don't think there's any left.
One question, though, is I think the...
You do the presenting and you ask the questions?
I do have,
Wow, you're like, we don't even need to be here. Go ahead.
I'm just trying to do some preventative things here, and that was, I would recommend this board sit down and do a policy for boot drives, my opinion.
I was going to vote for this.
Lost the vote.
It's gonna be a close one.
I just figured we'd just like to expedite it along the way. Which I am in favor of policy for boot drives. A lot of towns are doing it, just so you know.
Mr.
I'd
Chairman,
say-
I'd like to propose that we approve the request for a boot drive for the Salvation Army as described so aptly by Mr. McDonald.
Second.
Any further discussion? All's in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank
Opposed?
you. I do have, oh, I'm sorry.
Wow.
I know.
Go ahead.
Well, the dog is scary here. Beautiful dog, though.
The dog can't believe you're still going on.
I know.
You got the sale, Dave.
I know, but I do have some other things. And just for the information, we have a group of citizens that would like to put the Christmas lights back up at the center of town. We talked with the Ledger about installing the mailbox for the children for Christmas, for the kids to write to Santa. So we're all set with that, and we're going to be decorating. We're working with Loxley at the superintendent of schools to have the lighting ceremony, I think December 2nd, but that's not official. I think the dates are still going around there, but because it's so late this year, Thanksgiving, there's really not much time. So I didn't know if anyone has any objection to that, and if you don't, it's going to be bigger and better than last year. And we talked to Mike Knoll about not putting the Santa with the fire-breathing dragon at the center of town this year, so it'll be done nice. So is that okay?
I don't have any objection. No, I don't think we need an official vote, but that's fine.
Okay. And, well, we're going to be doing that weekend, so if any resident would like to get involved, please send an email to Loxley, and if you would like to donate some lights or something, or come on down, we'll be there in the morning, and there'll be hot chocolate and Christmas songs and all that. And the last thing is, Mr. Matthews, I appreciate your words, and it was nice to be involved in that for the Eagle House, not because of us, not because you guys were selectmen, but we're all residents and friends, and it's nice to know that you can pick up the phone and do something in this town that benefits not only the elderly, but everybody. And I had a ball doing it Saturday, and I know the Eagle House really appreciate it, and I appreciate it just doing it for you guys. So again, thank you all for your help. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Chief Marino and Lieutenant Luth for the K-9 grant opportunity and demonstration.
Hi, Mike Luth, Lunenburg Police Lieutenant.
I'm going to defer everything to Mike Luth because this is his project. I support it 100%. He's done a lot, him and Josh Tossey have done a lot of work.
The town of Lunenburg really has a fantastic opportunity to start a police K-9 program with a very generous grant that's offered by the Stanton Foundation. And tonight, before I forget to introduce him, Stephen Sallin from the Stanton Foundation made himself available tonight in case there was any questions, and he can really explain the grant in detail if you so need to hear that. We also have Officer Jason Berthollet from the Woonsocket, Rhode Island Police Department, who's a over a 10-year K-9 handler and trainer, police professional, and he's very active in regional K-9 training as well as, being an officer himself, and he offered to come up and do a quick demonstration to kind of get the point across. Essentially, this grant is approximately a $25,000 grant that allows a small town to establish a K-9 program, offsetting or paying for most of the cost in establishing the program. That would include purchasing of a dog, the training of the dog and a handler, outfitting a cruiser, building a kennel, equipment, food, veterinary costs associated. The grant goes over a 3-year period. They're looking for a 5-year commitment from a town. They actually build into this grant a buffer, a little extra money assuming there's going to be cost after that. I'm trying to think of some of the different things, but for the most part, Officer Tossi has gone out and has actually been very active talking to people in town, particularly business owners, seeing if they'd be interested in partnering with the police department in making this program successful. And we've gotten a very positive response with people who would help out with establishing kennels and food, and we're still working on veterinary care to keep the cost low for the town, going past the life of the grant. Trying to think of, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. If you have any really specific questions, I'd like to, either I can answer them, or if it's about the grant, I have Mr. Sallin here.
Just one, one first question, which would be, well, I have two questions. One of them would be, what would be the use of canine?
It would be a patrol dog that was trained to track people, so we could use a dog to find either a lost person or follow a suspect that was involved in some sort of crime. The dog would also be trained in protection of the handler, the officer that is partnered with the canine. And the dog would have to be, one of the requirements of the grant is they want a dog that is dual purpose. Because of the expenditure they're putting out, they want the dog trained in two purposes. The second purpose would be narcotics detection, and we would use that in a patrol function.
Okay. My second question, totally different way, so totally different direction, which is, after the 3 years, what is it estimated that it would cost to have the program go on if it's all in the towns?
The estimates, they've done this with many jurisdictions here in Massachusetts specifically, and their costs, what they have for estimated costs are, I believe are in that packet, but I'll just kind of go over them. They estimate the cost of food per year to be $800, veterinary cost $500 to $600 under normal circumstances, in-service training $500. Hopefully, we're hoping to get partnerships within the town to help offset those costs. We've had a real positive response from some of the retailers that would help with some of the costs of those things. One of the things the chief has already looked at, the way this unit would be deployed, it would be similar, it would be in conjunction with our traffic program, in a sense that when the handler and dog have to be at in-service during their training, it would not deplete the patrol force, causing overtime. That's a big benefit of having it in conjunction with that traffic program. Those are the costs that I'm aware of right now.
Okay, and by the way, the town manager pointed out it's on page 8 in the book. So, anybody have questions for the lieutenant?
So the dog is partnered with the officer consistently. It's a single handler for the dog?
Yes.
Okay.
That handler and dog will go through the training together. The dog that would be, that we would receive would be what's called a green dog, a dog that has not been through training. It would be previously picked out to be a dog of high caliber, for this purpose. And the trainer and dog will go through the training together.
Okay. So basically that handler is going to be on call pretty much anything comes up, missing person?
Yes. For our town, yes, we're going to develop a policy. We're going to look at what other agencies use right now. There will be definitely a policy in place on how that canine is deployed. But for the use of the town of Lunenburg, they will be on call 24 hours.
Okay, thanks.
Can I ask? Lieutenant, could you describe some of the instances in the past where we've had to call a dog in for different activities?
We've had several situations over the past few years, particularly mostly in the use of or tracking or looking for a lost person. We've had a couple of situations where small children were lost, and we've had to rely on outside agencies to bring in a dog, which is, and no slight on any outside agencies, but sometimes they're available, sometimes they're not. Many times we'll have to defer to or request assistance from the state police, and they're spread very thin, and their dogs are across the state. They're always willing to help, but sometimes they're coming from Oxford or Sturbridge or something along those lines. And in some of those cases, where time is the essence, it really inhibits what we're trying to do. We've had an adult lost person recently that we've had to call in assistance for. There's several situations. We do have narcotic situations in town, well, from the neighboring towns that come into our town that would be extremely useful in the detection of narcotics. But primarily, the most that we would use the dog, well, we have used dogs in the past, was for tracking people.
And would we then make the dog and handler available to neighboring departments, or how would that mutual aid work?
It would work on a mutual aid agreement, assuming that it would not, we're in a situation where it would not deplete the force under, a minimum safe manning for the town of Lunenburg, and that if the person was on duty at the time, that we wouldn't, unless it was a really extreme situation, we wouldn't call them in off duty to assist another agency. That's usually kind of the understanding, because there's so few dogs in the state, that the goal is to have them help each other out. The grant is, I don't have much more on the grant, but the grant is really, if there was any grant that I've looked at was almost too good to be true as far as the awarding of it and the amount of money to establish a program. It's as close as it gets.
When, if approved, when would it be put into effect?
It's quite a startup time. The approval paperwork, we're actually under a time constraint. It needs to be all completed through, I believe it's November 25th. And there'll be some time before that we will have to sit down and go through a process deciding who the handler is going to be. Part of the members of the Stanton Foundation and the Boston Police Canine Training Academy will actually sit in on that and make their recommendations. So it's going to be several months. I don't have an exact number, but it could be next spring or next fall before the program is actually up and running, if we were to...
When you're saying up and running, between when the dog is active and trained, or you're talking about when we'll get the dog?
When we get the dog.
Okay.
Yes. And then we're looking at, training after that, at that point, probably 14-week training academy.
That was one of the questions that I had in looking at this. It does talk about a 14-week academy at the Boston Police Canine Academy. Now, both the handler and the dog will attend that 14-week, and is that a full-time 40-hour-a-week schedule, or is it?
Yes.
It is. Okay. So whatever officer is selected as a handler will be out of Lunenburg during that 14-week period attending the training?
Correct.
Okay.
So, are we looking, Madam Town Manager, are we looking for a vote from this board?
I don't think,
Or is this just an informational?
I think
meeting?
it's informational. We wanted to gauge the interest of the board, but the board doesn't need to officially accept.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, in reading through the material, I think one of the factors that the Stanford group looks at is the enthusiasm of the town to support it.
Right.
So even though we may not be voting, I think it would be appropriate for us to kind of, if we're in favor, to make such an enthusiastic recommendation.
No, and I apologize. Sometimes I ask just technical questions because sometimes I want to know why people are before us so we don't forget that particular point. I understand that, and I'm clearly for the program. I mean, the use of canine officers for these purposes is certainly very well proven across the country, if not the world. So, yeah, I am clearly in favor of the project. I was just asking whether we needed one. Are we going to get a demonstration?
We are. Are you ready for?
I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to point out, I too am for the program, and I wanted to say, I think you've done a phenomenal job of approaching vendors in the town, and I'm very happy to see, within the proposal, you've noted all of the businesses that are willing to donate, and I want to thank them and recognize them for willing to come forward and help us with this. I'm very interested in seeing the demonstration.
Okay.
Show me. Show me. No, show me. Good boy, good job. Good boy.
Jason, do you mind just explaining?
I'm gonna explain what happened in a minute. My name's Jason Bertholet.
You just need to use.
My name's Jason Bertholet. I'm a police officer at the City of Woonsocket, Rhode Island. I'm also a member of a nonprofit search and rescue group. My dog Tango is 5 years old. He's a purebred German Shepherd, originally trained, bred to be a guide dog for someone who might be blind, but the trainers for that particular organization found that his talents would be better served elsewhere. So they contacted me. I looked at him, tested him. Works well in my house with my other dogs. I said I'm keeping him. So what I did was I trained him in narcotics detection and trailing. And trailing is basically it's tracking, but it's what a bloodhound does. So I work with some of the best tracking dogs in the country, and hoping to get him to that level. He's 5. He's certified nationally in trailing, internationally in narcotics detection. He finds 5 odors of narcotics. The one that's hidden is heroin. So he'll find cocaine, heroin, methamphetamines, ecstasy, and marijuana. What you saw was, it's called an on-lead directed search for narcotics. He's a passive alert dog, which means that when he indicates the odor of a substance is present, he'll either sit down or lay down, and he just pokes his nose to where it is, and I reward him. So that's what you saw, was an on-lead directed search for narcotics. Anything else? Okay.
I actually do have a question as to, you said he's 5 years old. What is the typical longevity of a canine
There are
working dog?
several variables that play into that. The biggest two being breed and function. So a average dual purpose working dog will be on the road with a certification and completed their training between the ages of 2 and 2.5, sometimes 3, depending on how old the dog was when it first entered the academy. You're going to get a safe working life out of that dog is going to vary, again, based on breed and function. So a dog that's put under the stress of doing a lot of criminal apprehension, handler protection, tracking, narcotics, your typical dual-purpose dog, that's the most stressful work a dog could do, because you're asking it to do a ton of different things and cram it all in a short amount of time. Very stressful. Dogs that do a single purpose or a limited amount of work, such as Tango, where he'll do just narcotics and tracking, very limited stress. When he's in my car, he lays down. I don't hear him. He's not like a typical police dog where you touch the outside of the car and they go crazy. Those dogs, that type of work is very stressful. So you're going to get a longer working history out of a dog that does less or is less stress work. However, with the right breed, the right training, and the right handler, even a dog that does dual purpose work can be extended. It's all about how the dog's taken care of at home, and again, the breed of the dog. A Belgian Malinois, which is looked at primarily as recently it's been thought of as the Lamborghini of police work dogs. The breeding is different. It's a different breed. They tend to be a little bit more athletic. I've seen them go a little bit longer. You'll typically see a police dog retire right around 8.5, 9 years of age. So you're looking at 6 to 7, potentially 7 really good working years out of that dog. And even then, once they retire, they don't shut off. He's been this way since he was a year and a half. He doesn't shut off. There are no toys in my house because he doesn't shut off. So even after retirement, he's still going to carry a ball around. He's still going to want to go to work. The functional working life of a dog and the working life of a dog sometimes can be two different things, but there are a lot of variables that play into that. For the purposes of your question, the answer is probably going to be right around 8.5 or 9. You're going to have to look at retiring that dog.
So just as a personal interest.
Sure.
Which is, how do you know when the dog is ready to be retired?
There are a lot of things you look at. First and foremost, physically. So breeding in a lot of German Shepherds and Malinois, it's very intense, it's very scientific, it's very thought out. So you actually breed out genetic disorders and things that would prevent that dog from working, such as hip dysplasia, elbow dysplasia, cardiomyopathy. A lot of these genetically predisposed issues are gone because you have the right breeding. So you have to look at the dog. How's the dog walking? A lot of times dogs will get a little bit lower in the back, they get a little more angulation, they have a hard time walking, they're slower, they get up slower, they lay down more, having a hard time going from the couch to the floor or in and out of the car. Simple things that you would normally see in your own personal dog at home, say, wow, he's moving a lot slower, or just not eating right, I need to change their food from a kibble to a softer food because the enamel in their teeth is wearing and they're a little more sensitive. These little physical things. The other things are going to be eyesight. As much as we try to breed out macular degeneration or the degeneration of the retina in the eye, sometimes you just can't prevent it. It's going to happen. So a lot of it is physical. How are they walking? How are they looking? Are they able to see appropriately? Are they still able to do their job? Is the drive is there? Their desire to do the work or drive to do the work is there. It's just not how it used to be. And at some point, you have to sit back and say, all right, well, as much as I love my dog and I spend every working and waking moment with this dog, as much as I want to see this dog succeed, I think it's time that we need to slow him down a little bit. He's earned his retirement, or she earn their retirement and go ahead on the road. So a lot of times it's mostly physical. You have to look at the dog and just see that they're unable to do the job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, again, I mean, as I said a bit earlier, first, thank you for the demonstration. Thank you for to the Stanton Foundation for offering the grant. And I certainly, as one member of this board and one member of the community, I think it would be, just given the cases that are in the pamphlet of how it could have been used already with issues that have faced the police department, I couldn't be more supportive of this group. As a dog owner, I know the loyalty and then the friendship you have with the dog, and to have a working dog that's with you and that can perform duties that, are a lot easier assigned to a dog than a human, certainly is a great way to use them, and I couldn't be more in favor of this program. Anybody else? So, I don't know what else you need from us, but...
We just want to make sure we were available for any questions and present the program to you. We appreciate your time, allowing us to do this demonstration, and we'll leave it at that.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you for all of your hard work on this. You've put together a fantastic proposal, so thank you very much.
Most of the legwork for us, so thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Chief.
And a thanks to Tango for the demonstration.
Thank you.
Thanks, officer. Okay. Status update of town manager. No, I'll just... Okay, while we're making copies, let's go to committee reports. Board of Health is Bob, right? Mm-hmm. Building Reuse Committee.
Yes, the building reuse committee met last night. All the preliminary input from the two task groups are in. There's a few items that are still being worked and are due at the next meeting, November 18th, and we expect to draft our conclusions and any recommendations at our December 2nd meeting and be ready to present to this board anytime after that.
Excellent. Capital Planning Committee.
Continues to meet weekly. We're meeting Thursday of this week, and we'll review the school department capital requests.
Finance Committee.
The last meeting was spent primarily reviewing the school project, the cost estimates, bond rating, finance options, etc. They plan to return to their review and update of finance policies at their next meeting on November 14th.
Okay, Library Board of Trustees is Bob. MPO?
I had a meeting with Trish Domigan from VHB and Jack Rodequins and the town manager, and it was really just to get a status on where we are with Summer Street and communications from Mass DOT. We are on track with meeting the requirements of the TIP, which we are slated for the 2017 TIP. This project is unusual in that we were not at the 25% design at the time that we were placed on the TIP, and it was with the understanding that we would get there within a certain time frame, and we are going to meet that time frame. We should be at 25% design in November, and that will be submitted. Then there will be a hearing in March. Mass DOT will have a hearing, as well as we will need to have our own public hearing to hear from people on the street. One of the things in coming out in the layout that did change slightly is that the amount of green space has been reduced. There will be about 10 feet of green space on the side opposite the tracks rather than the larger swath, and that's due to configurations of the layout as well as property lines, et cetera. So it looks like there will be a 10-foot swath of green space. Not as many low
As
end.
opposed to how much was it?
I don't know exactly the width, and Trish didn't have that, but it's not as much as we originally saw on the schematic. And the plan is to meet with some of the business owners in that time lapse between November and March to make sure that they understand how the project is going to move forward and address any concerns that they have. There are sidewalks on both sides of the road, and granite curbing is proposed. And so we are on track.
Excellent. Planning board.
No update. I was not able to attend the October 28th meeting. The meeting in, this first meeting in November has, regular meeting is not going to be held. They're going to be attending a seminar on site plan reviews at MRPC, and the next regular meeting will be the 25th.
Thank you. PAC is Bob. School committee.
I have had scheduling conflicts to get to their meetings, so I need to catch up. I know they have been looking at some goals, some pretty good aggressive goals, but I need to get more information on those.
Okay, school building committee.
We had our first public forum last Wednesday. It was fairly well attended, given competition with the World Series game. Our next one will be December 5th. We started discussing, we've been trying to fine-tune the design to bring some costs back in line, and actually, as we looked at a potential kind of a new direction for the design, it is to bring the gym and the auditorium and the cafeteria, the public spaces, more to the back of the building, and then keep the middle school, high school more clearly defined, the separation. As it turns out, as we looked at the design, most of us in the committee thought, if not all, thought it was actually a better design, because it fits the site better. It brings the larger scale buildings, the gym and the auditorium, away from Oak Ave, brings it more to the center of the site, and it's able to sit down in a different grade of the site. So it could lower the height by about 5 feet, which is significant in that area.
Sure.
And the upside, the good news out of all that is it also would reduce our cost by over $1 million. So we started talking about some of the numbers behind that. At that meeting, we've got to flesh that out a little bit more, but it brings down, the potential cost to the average taxpayer down significantly. I think it's about $80 per household, so depending on which way we finance it. Again, we're working with the MSBA. We don't want to upset the apple cart with them and get too aggressive yet. Our next step with them is they'll meet on November 20th. They'll review the plans, and hopefully we'll get approval and we'll stay on track. We don't want to get too aggressive again with the design discussions because it could put them off. And the idea or the thought from our OPM and the construction manager is if we get off track, every month we're off track, every month we're delayed, costs us about $150,000 in projected increases in cost, which is significant. So overall, as we're looking at this project, just consider that every month we delay this, 150 grand more. So we don't want to have that happen. So once we get approval with them, November 20th, we can start fleshing out the design more, we can start fleshing out the dollars a little bit more, and we can get a little more firm as we get closer to January meetings and more discussion. The next public forum is actually two planned for Thursday, December 5th, one at 3 p.m. for folks who don't, get out in the evening or prefer to go out during the day, and another at 7 p.m. So, 2 for 1.
At the high school again?
At the high school again, in the auditorium. And also on November 16th at the library from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It'll be just kind of a coffee break, coffee forum for people who want to stop by, look at some of the plans, and ask any questions they may have, so.
Excellent, thank you.
Before we leave that, can I just give a quick update?
Okay.
I attended a meeting at the MSBA this afternoon in Boston with the superintendent, chair of the school building committee, the architect, and the OPM. And the only thing I wanted to mention is, we went through the status of all of the submittals and what the next steps are. We will be receiving a project scope and budget agreement from the legal staff at the MSBA sometime within the next several days, and they indicated that they would like to have this board execute that document before the November 20th meeting. That would be the ideal scenario. We don't have it yet. It's something that we'll have to send off to legal counsel, but it's something that legal counsel has seen before. So I just wanted to kind of put you on notice that we only have 2 meetings before the meeting on the 20th. I'm not sure that we'll be able to do it, but I think that was the most significant thing that came out of that meeting for me to pass on to you.
So we don't have it, it's coming from the MSBA.
It's coming from the MSBA.
And we found out today that they want it back in 2 weeks.
Ideally, they would like to have it back, yes. And this will be the document that, where the budget is set, where the reimbursement percentage is set, all the things that the MSBA then will vote at their meeting on the 20th.
And again, this is the frustration of this partnership, if you will, that they entirely, we hold a couple of cards, but they have all the aces.
Yep.
And they set the schedule, they set the timeline, and we meet it.
Yep.
And, the challenge is, it's frustrating, it's annoying, but at the bottom of the spreadsheet we're going to look at, it's going to be $36 million, so we be dancing.
Can I just want to go back to the changes in the design. You mentioned looking at moving the community areas, and I'd just like to understand how that works in with the budget, and if we do execute this agreement, which sets a budget prior to the November 20th meeting, if the design changes and the budget changes, obviously it's going to go down.
The budget's being submitted with the changes, the reduction in cost already taken out of it.
Okay.
Taken out of the contingency line as opposed to the construction lines.
Okay.
And then as we get past November 20th, as we get to final, it'll get shifted around.
Okay.
Appropriately.
All right.
And, we're saving money based on the site work is a big impact. And, again, just the layout, we're able to reduce the envelope. So it's still the same size buildings, it's still the same capacity. It's making better use of using the second floor over the offices, the administrative space, adding classrooms above that it can be used. They'll be actually between the 2 wings. Mm-hmm. So those can be like the foreign language classrooms, which are kind of shared. So it makes sense for them to be in the middle.
Right.
That way you're making use of that foundation, and you're cutting down your number of roofs, the amount of roof space, et cetera, because you stacked it. And we'll get into more detail again, once we get the okay from them, we can get into more of that.
Can I just make one comment about the presentation?
Sure.
I was happy to attend the presentation, and I think a lot of good information, and I was very, very happy with the number of people that attended, especially given the playoffs. But one of the things that struck me is the number of people that questioned what advantages we were going to see in the curriculum. So I think it's important that moving forward that we emphasize that, because I think that by doing this shared space, and it's not just about outgrowing the building, it's about the changes that education is demanding and the advantages that our future generations are going to see. So I think it's important that, in the other public hearings, and I know the people that attended took that under advisement, but I do think it's going to be important that we emphasize what changes in curriculum and what advantages our kids are going to have because of this new building. So it was one of the things that I really came away with, and my husband, as well as some of the other people that attended, all mentioned that. So,
okay. Thank you.
And Sewer Commission is Bob, and I will give a brief update on the Mass Broadband. So they are at 100% of the poles surveyed and poles installed. They are 99% done with the project, the whole project in its entirety for lines run and fiber tested, and the networking is about at 97-98%. So Lunenburg is set to go online along with a lot of other places as the last leg, which is in December, so December of this year. And then we should have, then the whole thing should be lit, and we should be approaching getting the community anchor institutions, town hall, the library, the Ritter Building, the schools, et cetera, online with that. And then from that point, we can start working on how do we address business and residence attachment, which is still not really fully in place, even though I continue to ask, because they're really focusing on getting the project done first, with the communities established, and then getting third-party access beyond the towns after that.
And are they going to assist with that third-party access?
They're going to act as a liaison. I mean, the network itself is going to be run, it's not run by the state. I mean, there was a bidding process, so there's an entity that will take over that. And then there are, like out west, there's an organization called Wired West that is working in the consortium with how to get, because those places didn't have any service. They didn't have DSL, they didn't have cable, they didn't have anything, some of those towns. We'll be looking at their models and how third parties can get involved and get participate in getting access to through this networking company that's running the technical aspects of the network. So the whole bidding of getting something on is what will be worked on next.
Now, what is our involvement with that? Is this going to be third parties that are going to do that individually with homeowners, or is it something that the town is going to orchestrate?
I'm looking to get involved from a town perspective, to see what is available through the town.
So are you anticipating that we'll be going through a bidding process, or that we'll be soliciting proposals, or I just like to understand?
I think what I'm hoping to have, and it's not completed, but that there are people that are the companies that will be approved.
Okay.
That Mass Broadband Institute has worked with the networking company running the fiber, and have come down to these companies have already gone through the process. We approve them to have access and things like that, of that nature. But once it's available, because it's a public project, third parties can bid on getting access.
Okay.
So that's why it's not fully defined as of yet how that's going to happen. Okay, are you ready for town manager status update of town manager goals? I will let you drive this report.
So what I did was I just made some notes on where I am with some of the different items. The first goal was all related to personnel. The first, institute annual performance evaluations with department-specific metrics. That has been started. I am in process of scheduling and conducting meetings with individual department heads. I had hoped to have more done at this point before getting ready to go into the budget. Unfortunately, just with a couple of the different projects, I think the casino project in particular just took up a lot of time over the last month. The next, implement periodic, before I pass that, I do expect by the end of this month to have all of the performance reviews done with the metrics established in written documents. The second, implement periodic department head and staff meetings to facilitate communication and teamwork. Those really are occurring on an as-needed basis. We don't have any standing staff meetings. I think at some point in the future, I would like to get back to having something like that, probably on a quarterly basis, not something on a more regular basis than that right now. All of the staff meetings are either related to specific projects. For instance, we have on budget, when we get ready to do the budget, or just with groups of department heads on particular projects. On a pretty regular basis, we might have something going with the two chiefs and the DPW director, for instance, or land use or something like that. Next, formulate a system to document performance issues and specific corrective actions. And I guess when I was thinking through this, I'm not sure if I couldn't quite remember the discussion. Each of the collective bargaining agreements and the salary admin plan identifies what the process steps are for disciplinary action in terms of when you go from a verbal warning to a written warning, and when some of them even talk about the length of time in between the different warnings and what action happens. So we do follow the process that's already established in collective bargaining agreements or the salary admin plan. Unfortunately, there always are a handful of employees that we're working on plans with, but we do follow that process. Next, explore training and educational seminars. Maya provides training on a very regular basis. They have a number of different topics. They provide training either on-site. They're doing a lot with webinars right now. We do make use of Maya training, I think, for two reasons: because it's free and a lot of their stuff is online, so you don't even have to leave the office, so it's easy. So maybe three: it's free, it's easy, and we receive credits back from Maya if we participate in these trainings. And I did send you an email, maybe a couple of weeks ago now, indicating that last year we received about $11,000 in participation credits. And this is from the different trainings that individual employees participate in, and we receive that credit back. And I suggested that maybe we could set up an in-house grant program or something with those funds, because that's something we do budget. We don't necessarily know how much we're going to get on an annual basis, although I do push that training. But I thought it would be nice to, perhaps the board would like to take up some sort of in-house grant program where that money could be redistributed to departments for activities that might not get funded within the annual operating budget, but might promote efficiencies or some additional specific training or something like that. We also have some board members and staff participating in the Citizen Planner program, and that's a program where there are a bunch of different workshops and seminars that are offered across the state on a variety of land use topics. We do have planning board and planning staff participating in one or two of those at this point in time. There have been other other training opportunities that have been offered to department heads, and I can put more detail together on that if you are interested. But I think we're doing a much better job at seeking out and suggesting training opportunities for department heads and staff. The next is completing job descriptions for each position in the organizational chart. This is something that the Personnel Committee has taken up a couple of times, and we haven't made a whole lot of progress in this area. I did months ago talk to the Personnel Committee about the potential of actually hiring somebody to do this work, because it's a significant amount of work, but it's not difficult. It's just time intensive for a certain period of time. We do have an opportunity, again, from Maya for a grant that I believe would cover the cost of hiring somebody, and I have talked to a consultant who is interested in doing the work but can't do the work until January or February of 2014. This is something that I think, I've talked a number of times about the fact that we really could use a human resources director, even on a part-time basis. without having a human resources director, we either this is something that I take up, that the personnel committee takes up, or we hire somebody on a project basis. And I think when I put the budget together, I haven't started the budget, but I think I will make a pitch again for a part-time human resources person, because there's just a whole lot of work that's associated with this function that it's, you have to take care of the stuff that is a real problem, but some of these other things, keeping job descriptions current, keeping policies and procedures current, they don't always get the attention that they deserve because of the fact that we don't have we have a lack of staff time for those different activities. The last is establishment of departmental goals and objectives. This is something that will occur through the annual performance evaluations with the department heads. The second set of goals were related to finance. The first, implement performance-based budgeting. I am hoping to include at least some performance measurements within the fiscal 15 budget recommendation that I make. We did begin gathering data for performance measurements in fiscal 13 that I had hoped to use in putting together fiscal 14, but that didn't happen. I do believe we'll have enough data to at least start that process in fiscal 15. The next was providing quarterly budget updates with an executive summary to be co-presented with the town accountant. We did this at one of your last meetings. We provided the first quarter report both to you and the finance committee. I was happy that we were able to do that. This was really the first time that we had provided you with a quarterly budget report in a timely fashion, and I know that the finance committee appreciated that as well. And then the last, to construct a budget retrospective by Department of Historical Funding and Staffing, tasks performed or eliminated with outsourcing impact note. And I do expect that we will have some more detail on that again for the fiscal 15 budget. We have provided some level of detail, but I know not as much as the board would like to see. So I do expect that for fiscal 15. Just to make a note, I met with the Finance Committee at their last meeting, and we agreed on December 12th as the date to have the five-year financial forecast presentation. We've done that as a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee on a Thursday night, so we will be doing that December 12th. There's an awful lot going on at this point in time with the school building project, but that is something that's a requirement, and the Finance Committee felt it was important to continue in our tradition of having that presented at a public meeting, even though, we have the school building project and lots of meetings on that going on also. And then the third goal, or goals related to operations. The first, operational review and analysis with efficiency improvement plan or affirmation of existing operations. This is something that we do probably more on an informal basis as the budget recommendation is put together. We will continue to do that. One thing that I guess I'll note here, rather than under reports, the police chief has come to me and suggested that the town of Lunenburg take a lead on looking at a regional animal control officer, or animal control operation. There is a grant that is available, the Community Challenge grant. This is a new grant from the state that came out in fiscal 13. And there is a group of communities in western Massachusetts that actually received a sizable grant for regional animal control. So unfortunately, this round, the grant application for this round is due on November 21st or 22nd. So we're not in a position to apply this year, but I hope that we will be in a position to apply next year. What we are going to apply for instead is a DLTA grant through MRPC to do a feasibility and initial planning study for regional animal control. And I did speak with the executive director today, and he felt, and he also spoke with John Hume, who runs the DLTA program, felt that that would be a strong contender for a DLTA grant. MRPC is looking to do, or to help communities facilitate regional activities. And this is, animal control is one that we have struggled with because we have an individual basically on stipend. We don't have a set schedule. And, the need for an animal control officer can arise at any time during the day, any day of the week, any week of the year. And it's tough because that person has times when she's available, not available, on vacation. So it's a lot for one individual. And in talking to other town managers in other communities, everybody is struggling with the same thing because everybody has a part-time animal control officer or has a part-time animal control officer that they share with another community. And so just in the last couple of days, I've heard from 3 different communities that would be interested in partnering with us on a regional animal control, and I think there are more out there. So I think it would be helpful if we could have MRPC assist us in doing a feasibility analysis, I guess, and initial planning. I think that would strengthen the grant application through the Community Challenge Grant. So we will be looking to do that and hopefully be able to file for a grant. The grant would cover any capital costs if we needed to construct a kennel, if we needed to purchase vehicles or other equipment. And then the ongoing operations of that, I think, could easily be funded within existing appropriations. I've spoken with Townsend, Pepperell, Lancaster, and those 3 communities are spending about what we're spending or more for a part-time function. So we spend about $24,000 per year. Pepperell was the highest at, I believe, $34,000 a year. I think we could easily be able to provide more coverage on a regional basis for what we're paying now or less. So that's something that we would like to look at. But that's just an example of the types of things that we look at on an annual basis. The next is develop project planning and reporting for annual tasks or special reports. I didn't make any note here. I think I wanted to think about that one a little more. I'm not sure we're not doing it, but I just didn't have any comment to offer at this point in time. Third, plan for future positions, additions, consolidations, and/or eliminations. This will occur throughout the budget development process for fiscal 15. This is, again, one of those things that is looked at on a regular basis. I know I've spoken to you at least individually with the upcoming retirement of the planning director. I think we have an opportunity to potentially do some reorganization in land use, and that's something that I will be bringing forward to you through the budget process. Next, develop, document, and implement a 5-year facilities maintenance plan, both operating and capital. The Department of Public Works is currently in the process of drafting a plan. We had I guess, a real basic plan that was submitted through the capital improvement planning process last year. I think it's been improved this year, but there's still work that needs to be done And I did make a note that the Building Reuse Committee is gathering a lot of data, analyzing a lot of data that we'd like to incorporate into this plan as well. Next, develop a plan to codify current bylaws. As you know, we did secure some funding in fiscal 13 for this project. We did select a vendor. We've signed a contract for this project, and it is moving forward. I don't yet have a timetable on when it will be completed, but I'm definitely looking forward to having this project done. And then last, work with the IT director to develop, document, and implement townwide IT policies. That is one of his goals for the current fiscal year.
Any question for the town manager on this update of the goal sheet?
I have a question, just more of a comment. There's some of these things, especially in this last sheet, the operations, as we talk about, a lot of this will occur during the budget process. I mean, it always does. It always gets fine-tuned. It always gets looked at. I think maybe before we get into that budget process, we probably want to lay some groundwork and look further ahead, because it's not always time within that time to really flesh it out. We've talked in the past about consolidating facilities management operations across all town functions. We've talked in the past about consolidating personnel HR functions across all town functions, and I know there's reasons why that hasn't been implemented yet, and there's issues with current staff and et cetera before we can make that happen, but I think it would benefit us. It would benefit the school budget. I will note that one of the school committee's goals that I noted, that I did catch in the replay, was to get to a place where there's not fees and sports fees and activity fees and all that in their budget, going to the kids or being paid by families to support those activities. And the only way they're going to accomplish that is to become even more streamlined and more efficient. So I think there's pressure on both sides to look harder at some of these things we've struggled with in the past. I hope we start looking at, the regional animal control officer is wonderful. Hopefully we can get one that will deal with wild animals, not just domestics, and have a little fuller response, because we seem to have more and more incursion or interaction. And hopefully we're looking at regional lockup opportunities, because again, that seems to be a high dollar cost in our public safety budget that maybe we can help share across other communities as well. So, it's all good. A lot of what you've stated, it's good steps forward. Obviously, there's a long way to go in a lot of them, but we seem to go in the right direction.
I think in terms of, I guess the way that I've approached this, and some of the department heads have approached efficiencies and regionalization and that sort of thing, is, when opportunities arise. I think we have tried we've tried to create some opportunities. I think the one thing that comes to mind is consolidating HR. And it's really, it's sort of funny to sit here and talk about consolidating HR, because I've got a void in HR. So it sounds nice to say consolidating HR, but it's sort of creating. It's creating that.
Filling a gap.
And that didn't work so well. So I think we've spent more time where we see opportunities through the retirement of a staff member, or through somebody taking another position somewhere else, and you have an opening, and that sort of thing. And I think we've been pretty successful there. But I guess it has been a while since we've tried pretty hard to create an opportunity.
And I just want to echo Mr. Matthews' comments. I think that looking at it in the budget it's obviously part of the budget, but I think rather than be reactive, and we have to look for opportunities. And I think that I'm happy with the progress, but I think one of the things that by reinitiating those quarterly department head meetings, hopefully by having department heads talk more regularly, maybe opportunities will present themselves rather than be reactive to a retirement or to a specific set of circumstances. I'm happy with the progress, but I think that we need to start really looking at, as Mr. Matthews said, streamlining operations and perhaps making some difficult decisions, which I know you do every year on a budget basis, but I would like to see us start that earlier in the process rather than at the budget process, because I think there may be ways to change operations or streamline things, or I think the animal control is an exciting opportunity, and I hope that that all works out, but we've got to start looking at more and more of those, and I think we're doing that, and I'm happy with the progress. I just would like to see it more robust conversations about these type of things before the budget rather than part of the budget.
I guess now I feel like I have to make another comment because I just had a really uncomfortable feeling, and the thought popped in my head is we're always going to be reactionary. We don't have the staff that we need to have, so we're always going to be reactionary. And when I started with the town, the function of my office and the Board of Selectmen's office, we had 4 full-time equivalents, and we now have 1.75. So we're, and I know I brought forward those changes, but I brought forward those because we had to. We had to make cuts. So I understand the comments. I appreciate the comments, and I know it is difficult when you're talking about the budget to kind of take in the big picture. So I can appreciate that. I think the problem is creating the time to be addressing these issues outside of the budget. And unfortunately, we just have so many things that come up during the year that eat at the time. And I still think, and I know I said this to the last board when somebody made a comment about this, I guess I would challenge anybody to go to any other community and find any other community doing more regional activities, doing things smarter or better than we are. There's always room for improvement, but I think in terms of being efficient and consolidating in regional activities, I think we're pretty impressive for a community of this size. So I understand the comments. It's awfully difficult to fit all of that in with everything that we do.
And with that said, I just want to point out, we've had conversations in the past, offline, you and I, and there's always conversation, there's always thoughts, and you're always mulling the future. And I want to be clear to make sure people at home understand that as well, that you don't kind of come into this and someone, something happens and you react to it. I mean, you're always looking ahead at, changes expected in the workforce. People are probably going to retire, or maybe will retire, or you're always looking at these opportunities throughout the year. So I realize, and I just want to point out that it's an ongoing thing constantly with you. So, maybe it's not all written down, maybe it's not all codified, but I know it's an ongoing process, and you're always looking ahead. So I do recognize that, and I appreciate that.
I do just want to say, I had some concerns about the selectmen's budget at last budget cycle, and I continue to have those concerns. And I think that if the budget does not support the staff that we need, that we've got to address that. And we've got to put the funding that we need for both an HR person and whatever staff you need, because it's one of the most important jobs. I mean, you're running the entire town. So if we don't have the resources, and I know you made the cut because you had to, but maybe something else has to give, because I think that you don't have the staff that you need. I think you're doing a phenomenal job with the very limited amount of people that you have. But I think a lot of responsibility is falling on your shoulders because simply there's no one else in your office to do it. And I think that we've got to really look hard at the funding within our own office.
I think we do, and but it's definitely a balancing act because, we have to put together a budget that's responsible and that the community will support. And if we're talking about making cuts in the school, more cuts in the school, DPW, police, fire, in order to have a human resources staff member, I think it's a hard sell. So it's not, none of the administrative cuts have ever been made because they were things that, I wanted to do, or I thought, oh, we can get away with it. It's just when you're looking at, you're cutting from services that people are seeing and using versus kind of the back office, it's tough to beef up the back office when people are hurting with the other services.
I think we should make the point that, excuse me, Jamie, that, we have to recognize what drives the budget. I mean, I think that all the goals, first of all, thank you for the progress on the goals and the status report. But a lot of things that would drive the budget are not, this is the plan and we have to try to reach the plan, because everything that town manager has put on the last few years, when she had a 5-year projection and said, these are all the things we need, and remember there was a list of like 20 items on that, and previous boards went through and said, yeah, we need those, yeah, this could be reduced, but they were all increases. But that's an organizational vision that I think the town manager has put forward, but we don't have the budget to do it because we're always going we're not even breaking even, we're going in the other direction, and we have been every year for certainly the last 5 years at least. So it's difficult to do both, and I agree with my colleagues that every opportunity that comes up, whether it's a regional animal control officer or something, as things come up, we definitely should take advantage of them. We've done the regional hazardous waste, we've done the regional dispatch, and we've taken advantage of everything we can, but still the driving force is the money to do the things that we think we need to do, and that's where we always seem to get caught. Mr. Toll.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I can't miss an opportunity after spending my entire career in human resources to say that if the work of human resources is viewed as a back office function, it does in fact get put into the budget cycle as a do we need it, don't we need it. The real work of human resources is being done every day and will be done every day because it needs to. It's being done by our managers, it's being done by Kerry. Clear job descriptions, clear goal setting, motivation, recognition are all parts of what we all do when we work for the town. I would support us thinking of it as a much more holistic discussion and dealing with it in each of our jobs, and then supporting that in any way we need to do it, as opposed to a back office function that may or may not be cut.
Great. Anything else on the town manager goals status update?
The only thing I want to point out is it was mentioned as part of it in passing that the planning director was going to be retiring next year. I don't know if this was discussed at another previous meeting. I know we just got notification officially tonight. And I just want to take a minute to thank Marion Benson for all her years. I mean, she's not leaving yet. She's not leaving until next September. I want to thank her for planning ahead and notifying us
She's
plenty
a
of
planning
time
director.
ahead that she decided, she's decided to retire next September 1st, giving us plenty of time to plot out the future of that position and how it's going to be staffed and what it's going to do, and there'll probably be some changes there, but I just want to take a minute now, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more later, to thank her for her years that she donated as planning board member to this town and actually did the work of a planning director for free, and the years she served us since she's joined the workforce here, and the work she's done for a long time for this community. I know it hasn't always been easy for her, hasn't always been popular. Some of the things she's done for this town, in this town, hasn't always been popular, but you cannot deny that she has worked her tail off for this town. So just want to thank her for that.
And I could not concur more heartily. I agree.
Absolutely.
Status update on the Board of Selectmen goals. I don't know if anybody has reviewed any of this. I mean, I have the list here. So we're talking about finishing, item 1 was finish the review of the Board of Selectmen Policies Manual. We have been doing that. And in fact, it's on agenda tonight, but I think it's going to get pushed to next week because we're waiting for the final revisions to be finalized. We have redone or reviewed all of the policies that we currently have. There are some hearing procedures, that's subsection A here, defining some hearing procedures for dog hearings, liquor licenses, et cetera, that we will be taking up that do not exist currently. And we will look at appointment, reappointment, and performance review procedures. That has been discussed very superficially and not really dug into.
Don't forget boot drive policies.
Oh, that's right, boot drive.
Oh, it's on the list.
I know, but it's not on. Number 2 is creating a list of town-owned land and chapter properties. So we do have some work that's done by previous study committees, but we said we would go and really make that a more formal document and then check with the Board of Assessors for those properties and potential valuations. So I know that the Finance Committee, I should ask, I know the Finance Committee had a list, and I don't know what list they were working from.
We all have the same list.
Okay, we all, okay. So we need to bring that to the Board of Assessors, which is our next step. Then, of course, even though it's not a step here, that's definitively listed, but certainly the implication is decide what to do with those properties. Which ones are kept, which ones should we potentially look at selling and consolidating, so.
And just to ask, on the chapter land, we were looking for some feedback from Open Space on developing a criteria, and
Right.
if we can just get an update from them on where they are with that.
Yep. Economic development plan was to discuss and explore how best to attract business and or other development to the town, and then discuss further this composition and potential creation of an economic development team. We have not really touched on that this year.
We actually have some valuable information from MRPC that I think has been distributed to the building reuse, and I think we might want to revisit that and talk about how developing an economic development team. I know MRPC is doing a lot of work under the DLTA grant for the planning board that I think would tie into this, so we should definitely put that on an agenda for a future meeting.
Improve communications between committees and departments. So there was the reinstatement of the regular chairs meeting. While there have not been regular chairs meetings, certainly the other point is that as relevant topics arise, we've arranged meetings with municipal departments and other elected and appointed boards. So we have done that on several occasions already with the Open Space Committee, Conservation Commission, Planning Board, Open Space Committee, PAC. So we have been approaching those, and more will follow. And then the town website, we had 3 sub-goals to establish basic policies. This is basically a subset of number 1, which is the Board of Selectmen policies, but this was specific to the town website. Establish basic policies for what documents must be on the website, as far as, for instance, agendas, minutes, public hearings, etc., and in what format. And discuss and propose a basic framework for those document formats, and about staying up to date, and then also explore the possibility or the need for establishing a website policy committee. We should really at some point do this in conjunction with the IT director and get input from him to see how we can best, even though the website is not really under him, it's a distributed responsibility by department, but we want to at least have the basics at every site so people know what to look for and what formats things will be in, so it's not a hodgepodge, and at least it keeps some uniformity. We really have not approached that yet either. So we need to address certainly two of those, the economic development plan and the town website. The other ones are in progress. Any comments from the board on that? Set the date for special town meeting and the special election.
So, we have talked about having special town meeting either Monday, January 6, 2014, or Tuesday, January 7, 2014. I have talked to the moderator. He is available either one of those evenings. Have confirmed that the high school auditorium is available either one of those evenings. And we are really at the point now where we need to decide when we're going to have that meeting, because we have to start getting ready for the meeting. And I did ask the town clerk to put a schedule out outlining the dates, and I can email it to you. And I apologize, I was in Boston this afternoon and just got back at the beginning of this meeting. So we would need to, she has included here, opening the warrant this evening. It's not noted on the agenda that you would open the warrant, so while you could open it, if you do open it this evening, I would put that item on again next week for ratification. But we would only propose to keep the warrant open if you opened it tonight for 2 weeks, if you opened it next week just for a week, and then we really need to, that's the 2 weeks would be the maximum length of time from this evening that you have to keep it open in order for us to meet all of the requirements to be ready for the meeting either on the 6th or on the 7th. I did mention to you in an email when I first asked about putting this item on the agenda. I have to be in Boston on Monday the 6th for an arbitration that has been scheduled probably for about 3 months now, and there's absolutely no flexibility on moving that to a different date. My concern would be, I don't know how long the arbitration could take. It potentially could take all day, and I could be trying to come out of Boston at 5 or 5:30 at night to come to a meeting here, which would not be my preference, just because there's a lot to be done even that day to get ready for the meeting. But in the past, sometimes we've had special town meeting on Monday, sometimes we've had it on Tuesday. And then we would also be looking to have you schedule the special election, and that it's been suggested that Saturday, January 11th, would be the date for the special election.
So I would open up the discussion and I just make one opening note, which is if I would be against having it on Monday for 2 reasons. First of all, if things will change, as they always do in the last minute over the weekend, and if the town manager is scheduled to be at an arbitration and not available, that is leaving no flexibility and no leeway. So I think we should have it on Tuesday, January 5th? 7th. So that would be my recommendation, my opinion, because I think it's important that she be here for the day before that, or that day of, I should say.
I would agree.
I would agree.
I agree.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion. Can we do it in one motion, or do we need to?
No, one is fine.
I would entertain a motion on setting special town meeting for Tuesday, January 7th, and special election Saturday, January 11th.
So moved.
Do I have a second? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Just a note to everybody listening that while there may be other articles on the special town meeting, really the one huge article that is the driving force behind this special town meeting, especially at this time and the timing of it, is the school building project that you've been hearing about at this board and in the newspapers, and if you go to the school building committee meetings or the school committee meetings, been discussed at the finance committee meetings, planning board meetings, etc. For those who may have, I've heard things in town that some people may have the false impression that it's already a done deal, and that is not true. I mean, we need to have 2 votes from the town on this project. One is special town meeting, at which point that needs to pass by 2/3, correct? A vote?
Yes, because of the borrowing.
Right, because it's borrowing. And then it has to pass at the special election, which is what we just set for January 11th. So it needs to pass both of those places. So please do not, I don't know where that impression or where that feeling has come from, that there's all this talk and it's already a done deal, it's just a matter of when it happens. We as a town need to make it happen. Over the next course of the next few weeks, you'll be hearing from lots of officials, and certainly a lot from the school building committee in their open houses and in their own meetings, about why we need the school, how it impacts the town, how it impacts the town if we don't do the school. And I intend, at least on this board, at least a little bit every week, starting with this talk, of saying a little bit about at least the history of where we are, and what the ramifications may be as presented to us in the factual evidence or proposals that have brought the process this far. So next week I hope to talk about the age of the current high school and about why we're looking at a new high school and middle school to begin with. But please remember that it has to pass both of those votes. Thank you.
So then next week, I'll include an item on the agenda to open the warrant. So the warrant under the proposed schedule would be open on November 11 and closing on November 19. Also next week, I'll have a draft of the question for the special election.
Isn't the 11th a holiday?
Did I say 11?
November 11th
It's
is
right,
Veterans Day.
12.
isn't it?
So we would,
Okay.
Yeah, on the,
Oh, the 12th, right?
right, at our meeting, right.
Okay.
yeah, okay, I probably
12th.
said 11.
Okay.
Yep.
The 12th. So I'll have a draft of the question for the special election, the form of the question, because that has to be approved both by this board and by the MSBA. So we want to get that wording available.
I'm sorry, I missed when the warrant would close. We'd open it on Tuesday.
On Tuesday, November
evening.
12th,
Yeah,
and close it on Tuesday, November 19th.
19th, 1 week.
Okay.
Right.
okay.
Okay. Consider reduction in membership of the Green Communities Task Force.
So since the chair of the Green Communities Task Force came and spoke to you, I believe, at your last meeting, we have been trying to get additional people interested in serving on the task force. It is a task force of 7 currently, with 4 appointed members and 3 staff members that serve in ex officio capacity. We have not received any interest from members of the public in serving on the committee. As you know, the chair did express a concern that it's difficult at times to get a quorum, particularly because the chair happens to travel a lot for business. So he is one that has trouble making every single meeting. So I guess you have 2 options. What the chair of the committee had suggested was that the 3 staff members be appointed to the committee, but you also have an option, because you created the task force, that you could also change the membership perhaps from 7 to 5, making it easier to work with 4 if that's all that we have. I've mentioned to you many times that it's my preference not to have staff members on committees, because I feel staff members should be available to provide assistance and advice, but I don't necessarily believe, even when they are residents of the community, that they should be in a voting capacity on a committee. So my preference would be that you consider reducing the membership of the task force.
Given the fact that the chairman of the committee indicated it's extremely difficult to get a quorum, I would recommend that we change the makeup of the committee and reduce it to 5 in order to ensure that we are able to have meetings. I think they've done a phenomenal job so far, and I would hate to be in a position where they're not able to continue to do so because they simply don't have a quorum. So at this point, obviously, my preference would be that people would have come forward to volunteer, but since that hasn't happened, I think we should change it to 5 to ensure that we do have a quorum. And in the event that people do come forward at a later date, we can always go back and revisit that. But right now, because of the comments of the chairman at the last meeting, I would like to make a motion that we reduce the membership of the Green Communities Task Force to 5.
Second?
Any other discussion?
I just, it's bugging me that, a few months ago, we're having the solar discussion, and people were upset about it, upset about the siding. They were upset about the language of the original bylaw that was put in place, and there was a lot of discussion about, the Green Community Task Force, and, somehow they were wrong and all of that, and somehow they had led us down a bad path. And it just strikes me that a lot of people kind of were abuzz, and a lot of people were kind of tuned into their town for a minute. And, here's an opportunity where if you think, or if you thought, you had an idea that this committee was going in the wrong direction, if you want to change the direction, you got to get off your couch. You need to get involved in your town. And I don't mean to hector people, but it's just very frustrating that in our community that is growing, we're over 10,000 people, increasingly, the number of people willing to put some time into the town is diminished. And increasingly, the burden is on the same group of people over and over again. And this is a wonderful town. Most everyone I meet in this town, they're wonderful people, and I know it's difficult to put time aside for community service, but it's your community. So I would really like to see people who, get past the point of anger sometimes and resentment and frustration, and maybe actually do something to change it.
I agree with every word. Mm-hmm. And I had hoped, I had delayed this as chair, putting this on, and the chair of the Green Communities Task Force came to us a few weeks earlier than last week, last meeting. And I wanted to put it out there, to ask people to come forward, and it is, at the least, it is very disappointed. At the most, disheartening that everything Mr. Matthews said, that, we have a lot of people in the town, and it's a very apolitical committee, a task force, to look at ways to provide green energy and save money and save resources for everyone involved. But the business does have to go on. I certainly support Mrs. Bertram's motion, and I agree with the town manager that I think it's right to reduce the number and not appoint employees to be voting members, because I think there's an inherent conflict there. So, yes, Mr. Toll.
In light of Mr. Matthews' comments, which I agree wholeheartedly, I'd like to reinforce Mrs. Bertram's statement that we would not only reconsider moving it back to 7, we'd embrace moving it back to 7 if we had people willing to serve.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. Okay, so the motion has been made and seconded to reduce the number of members on the Green Community Task Force from 7 to 5. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. I will take this opportunity, because I didn't do it in announcements, about another committee that we've been talking about that needs membership, and that's the Public Access Cable Committee, which also is currently at 4 out of a possible 7. And again, it is a unique opportunity, I think, for people of all ages. You can be in high school. According to the bylaw, you can be in high school and be on this committee to learn about the studio, to help run the studio, to help direct programming and create programming, help other people create programming for the 2 cable channels we have, both the government and education channel, and then the public access channel. We need people to help do that, and I would imagine, it would be it would appeal to people who want to get involved in television production at all different levels. It could be at the learn the equipment and help people run it level. It could be at a producer level, getting people involved to do programming. So again, 3 openings for the Public Access Cable Committee. Please get talent bank forms either online or at the town clerk's office, and hopefully we will see some be filled out. Accept the Board of Selectmen policies and procedures. As I noted earlier, that is being finalized, that document, so we can accept it as is, and then there will be additions to it as we noted in our goals for different policies that will be added. Minutes. And warrants. A water warrant to issue allows us to send out quarterly bills. This is the amount, right?
Yeah.
$5,336.31. Again, that is the water department of Lunenburg, not to be confused with the water district. Accounts payable in the amount of $444,790.62. Three payroll in the amount of $650,217.73. Another payroll in the amount of $424.63. And one going the other direction of a reduction in payroll of $2,123.15.
I just note that negative payroll is the final approval of disability retirement for one of our police officers that we were notified of, that went into effect as of October 30th of this year.
Okay. Town manager reports.
I just went online to access our Survey Monkey question to give you the most up-to-date information. We've had 21 people respond to the question.
Remind people of the question.
And the question is whether the residents prefer that the school building project be financed over either a 20-year term or a 30-year term. And again, 21 responses. 62% are in favor of a 30-year term. And I'm sorry, my phone is ringing. 38% in favor of a 20-year term. So we've been running at about, this ratio has been consistent for the week that this question has been up. I would remind people that if you're interested in taking the survey, if you go to the front page of the town's website, you can access the link to this survey, and we certainly would appreciate having more than 21 people respond to the question.
And just so people are aware, the final decision of whether the town will approve a 20-year or 30-year borrowing for the school is made by the Board of Selectmen in conjunction with the town manager's input, obviously, and input from lots of financial committees in the town. We want people to let us know And the more representative, 21 doesn't represent well statistically a town of 10,000, and of which there's probably 6,000 voters. So the more representative it is, obviously the more influential it will be. So I urge people to provide their opinions about how they think we should be funding it or borrowing for it.
Just to kind of inform that decision and discussion, we actually talked about this at the forum. Town manager did some math. I mean, if you look at the average property tax bill, the impact, the charge, the 20-year versus 30-year, the net effect is it will cost that homeowner $2,640 more going with a 30-year financing as opposed to a 20-year financing. So, over 30 years, that's your cost increase. We talked about it. It was brought up at the meeting. Someone pointed out, of course, the most fiscally conservative way to approach this is to go for the shortest term possible. You incur much less interest cost, and you get it done for the best bang for the buck. However, the affordability issue is a big deal. A number of people pointed out, 30 years, you can have a mortgage for 30 years. I mean, it's just, life of the building's 50 years, so if you mortgage it for 30, it's not that bad. And again, if you look at that, the impact to the individual taxpayer, it's not a huge impact to go to 30 years. And then if you consider the value of money today versus the value of money 20, 30 years from now, what's that real impact? And that level of math is beyond me, but but it's all part of the consideration, part of the discussion.
Right.
So
we had a late entry in the payroll deduction, $314,542.91. Any other town manager reports? No.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Toll.
an action file issue, if I might.
Yes.
I received a correspondence from a citizen requesting that in light of any vote to significantly increase taxes, that we look into any assistance that might be available in terms of abatements or whatever for seniors. And I'd like to do some homework and just make sure we're aware of any of those programs that are currently available, or if any action is required to bring it back before this board.
I can say that when the Prop 2.5 override was sought after over a year ago now, a year and a half ago or something, that there was a paper that somebody put together that listed all the potential avenues that seniors may go through to try to get abatements and refunds and reductions, etc. So we could try to, I can try to find that. But also, I think that the seniors, the Eagle House, and maybe the director of.
Yeah, I have a meeting set up with.
She has a lot of that
Eagle House,
information.
and whatever I find out, I'll just make sure.
And if I find something, I will email it to you.
The assessor's office has a brochure, and actually next week we have the assessors coming in for the classification hearing, and I certainly could ask that they also make a presentation on the different programs that are available.
That would be great.
No appointments and reappointments, no executive session. Our next meeting, next Tuesday, November 12th, 2013. Any further public comment from the board this evening? Any public comment from the public? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
I have a second.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good night, everyone.
Carrie, this is Bob's. Okay.